Welcome to the Backbench podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Ganesh.
Hi.
Mr. Ganesh has spent over 2 decades in the nightlife, entertainment, and hospitality industry. And it's safe to say that he's one of the OGs of Bangalore F&B. And I'd like to start off by thanking you for accepting the invite to come on the podcast, sir.
Likewise, I would like to also thank Backbenchers for having me on this podcast. Yeah.
And today we're at the very special Mikos, which is a beautiful property. And so I want to start off by asking you, were you a backbencher in college?
Absolutely. Well, my whole education ride post my 10th, that's my SLC. Yeah, that's how you call it now. I mean, then I've been always an outstanding student. That means I used to always stand out. So yeah, I've always been a backbencher. I mean, studies was kind of not a great interest, but the reality, the life experiences were right. I mean, I was more into practical experiences. Yeah.
So where did you do where did you study, sir?
So my education started at Kumarans,
Okay.
Shikwaras Children's Home, which was in Basangudi in Bangalore, and then post that I moved to Vijaya Main College, which is another college which is on RB Road. And then I moved to Oxford. I was there. I did my BBM there. So I graduated and came out. And yeah, that's my educational journey.
Were you always were you always fascinated by the entertainment, nightlife, and the hospitality space?
Not really, but yes, music was always the thing in my family. Like my dad used to listen to a lot of Boney M and ABBA those days, and that kind of music was there in the family, like from the trips to home, everywhere, right? I mean, evening small parties they used to have at home to club gigs. I mean, there used to be Lions Club and all that. They used to have their own parties, and music was kind of a integrity everywhere. So yeah, music has been a very strong what do you say point in my life, right? And then entertainment is a change of an idea, right? When music happened in my life, I never realized that I will get into this kind of an industry, right? Education was the key then, right? I wanted to become this, they wanted me to become that. That was the whole idea and thought process. But then at my very early stages, after I kind of lost my dad and all that, I had to kind of do something out of the box, right? My dad was into business, so I come from a strong, hardcore business family, right? We were into import and export of bearings and all that. We were into a business family. So what? Somehow, I felt I didn't want to do business at that point of my life, right? Somehow, I said no. I want to do something else. I don't want to become my dad. I mean, that's like every son in every family, right? And then I need to kind of look up and start doing something, right? And that's when my cousin brother took me to Diana King show because there was in 1995, 96 approximately, which happened in Big Banyan Tree. Was such a big venue then. So that is when I saw the whole vibe and said, wow, this is entertainment. Who's this lady who's performing on the stage? And who are these people? Where did they come from? And where were they all this while? So that was the first exposure of entertainment in my life. And that is when this whole thing, I mean to say, when I say entertainment in my life, that is something, the first live concert I visited in my life. I had, maybe I might be what, 14, 15 at my age. And that is when the entertainment thing came into my life. That is when I said, oh, wow, this is entertainment. This is something, a person is controlling the entire crowd. I mean, people are following this person. So, wow, this is something that you need to look up to. And that is how entertainment happened in my life. And then the whole journey began. I was very inquisitive in understanding that culture, uh, following that patterns of entertainment. And that's how I got into DJing. So there was a question in my life. I said, a person, I was having this conversation. He said, "You like music?" I said, "Yeah, I like music." So he said, "Why DJ? Why don't you become a music producer? Get into become a music director or something like that." But then why get into DJ? I said, music production, music director are very big things for me at this point. Like I said, I was in a boat where I wanted to transform myself into what I was doing to what I wanted to become. So music director, music production was not a joke. I mean, nothing is easy today, right? And especially in that era, music was never a thing. I mean, DJing was known as one of the worst things to do in life. I mean, no family would support, no family would say, okay, go ahead and do it. So that was a kind of a challenge in that era. 98, 99, around 2000s, also early 2000s, DJing was not taken seriously, right? It was not a profession. Uh, but then, yeah, that's how I got into this whole segment of getting into music, getting into entertainment, turning myself into a DJ, and things like that. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your first gig as a DJ?
Oh, interesting. So my first gig was how do I put it? So it's actually not a gig. It was my residentship. All right. So TGI Fridays, which was located in Barton Center. I mean, HL Road. That was my first residentship, right? In the early 99, 2000s kind of a thing. Yeah, that was my, yeah, around that. Before that, in between, since I wanted to support my passion of DJing, because the day I've started to understand DJing, I said, okay, it's not money. It's about music. It's about expression. It's about knowledge. That is how we look at. Because then back then, music was not easy, right? Today you have internet. Today you have social media. Today you have so many platforms. You have so many DJs. Before, getting music was such a pain, right? There were senior DJs who were educating in the club, and we used to go listen to them and said, "Oh, this is this track, this is track." There were people traveling abroad, getting CDs, records, playing them, and we used to listen and, "Oh, this is a new track. Oh, this is new music." And that was the challenge in the early 95 2000s kind of period. So getting music since music was a challenge, I said, "Oh, this is not maybe my, this is not something I should look at it as a career." But then so happened, I had a student. He kind of had a chat with me. He said, "What is that you want to do? You've been so I've learned DJing. There was no schools and colleges then, right? I mean, for DJing or a music academy, something like that. So I came across a friend who was a doctor who was from Iran, and his passion was DJing.
Wow.
So he was studying in Ramaya College. So he used to be staying in this thing RT Nagar.
Okay.
So every day I used to take my bike from Baswangudi and travel all the way to RT Nagar just to understand this. Luckily, he was kind enough to help me out. His name was Bilal, and he said, "No, come, I'll teach you." And he had those music case logics and all that. Like, oh, like wow, all excited. So that passion kind of drove me. Like every day, I used to go all the way from here to Atinagar, spend hours together, come back. And after a particular time, it used to so happen that he used to just keep the keys and say, "Okay, you go ahead and practice whenever you want." So he saw that fire in me, right? He said, "Oh, this guy seems interested." And the first few months, he said, "Oh, you learn this, you learn that." So he helped me out, really helped me a lot. He taught me a lot. And then this happened. His friend was this Dalai Lama student who I acquainted. And one day he spoke to me with a glass of Pepsi. Both were sitting together. Eh, he's a hardcore follower. And he said, "What makes you think that you have to become a DJ?" So I said, "I love to entertain people. I love to I love to network. I love to entertain people and things like that." So then he kind of connected me to this place called Thank God It's Friday, which is on HL Old Airport Road. So I met this person called Anshuman Malik, who was the GM there. He said, "Oh, you're a fresher." I said, "Yeah, I have never been. Uh, I've never played anywhere. So what are you doing now?" So in between, I had this era where I was working for a call center.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I had to keep myself alive to continue my passion. So I was working on in this place called Sarkon India Limited. Then I was there in Airtel for a while. So I've since I kept doing that for about 4 5 years, and this happened, and that's when I joined TJF. Thank God it's Friday. Uh, so my first gig was apparently I joined on a Saturday evening. So he said, "No, you come Saturday, you come at 6 o'clock." Said, "Okay, done." So Sarkon India Private Limited was right next. It was in Cambridge layout, and TJF was in Indranagar. So it was not far. So I said, "I'll go to work, finish my work, and then come here and then go home." So this was a routine for about 2 3 years, which I did. And it was very good. It was a very, very healthy routine, which I would like. That time, it was because it was passion and pure fun. I wanted to see more of this. So I came in at 6 o'clock in the evening and they said, "Oh, hi. So what are you going to play for us today?" I said, "You tell me." So I opened my case logic and said, "So you see what you want me to play?" Like an amateur, right? I mean, then he said, "No, I want you to read the crowd and play what they want." I said, "Yeah, that's what I plan to do." I've seen the DJs do and other DJs do, and I've seen a lot of this over a period, and yeah, this is what I plan to do. So luckily, my first gig uh, was very well done, and I got my confidence from there. So then I understood this is not an accident. This is definitely a disciplined nature of work, right? Which needed a lot of dedication and time and energy to make these things happen. So that's when my first gig started at TJF. Then I continued this routine of working in a call center, doing TJF, and then later going to this. There was this place called Club X to understand what the other DJs are playing. All that routine. So finish, go back, wake up early morning, go back. So it's like a routine for about 1 2 years. Made a lot of friends in the market. Understood, connected with a lot of DJs in that segment. Met them, spoke to them, discovered a lot of things. So that's how my journey started, preferably.
So it's a journey that's been fueled by passion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a follow-up question to that is, when you started off around you started around like maybe the 90s and early 2000s, right?
Yeah, early 2000s.
Early 2000s. So compared to the early 2000s and now, what are some lessons that you've learned being a DJ that have actually like changed not just your professional career but who you are as a person too?
There were 20 plus years in politics of dancing, I call it. So, um, back then, there was a lot of dearth in terms of clubs, DJs, as a profession by itself, right? But today, you have a plateau. Like, um, from then to now, if you're asking me the change, as in, we used to have senior DJs we work under, and it's like the whole how the hotel industry works, right? Basically, you have to work under them, you have to understand the job, they find their own good boot to teach you what it is and all that, right? And that's the same thought process there as well. You had to work under DJs, and you had to do the right needful things, right? And then they used to allow you to play for half an hour, play for 1 hour, etc., etc. But today, if you look at it, the today, before, DJing was about music and crowd control, technically, right? But today, DJing is too many things, right? DJing is Instagram, DJing is marketing, DJing is music knowledge, DJing is a lot of other things, even following up on the gigs, after gigs, promoting yourself, a lot of talking on the mic. I mean, so many things, right? It's a multiple things this profession is demanding now. So a newbie today today there are three things. I mean, one is the skill, one is the what do you call the networking of people, and one is the right place. These are three things which should fall in line from then to now. Then you used to choose a place, you used to work hard, and then you used to get noticed and get to another place. Nowadays, you choose a place where you want to go and say, "Give me a Monday night, I'll pack this place up."
Yeah.
Now, how that happens, what happens, nobody understands this thought process. But then that's how the times have changed. The whole era has changed, which is also, I should say, we've evolved from what to what. We have completely evolved. So apparently, this whole course, from what it was to what is now, it's, I should say, that the whole Gen Z, the whole from the millennials to now, it's times have changed and we need to adapt. I mean, what's coming up? What obviously every, like, from my era, from the 2000s was hip hop and R&B. So today is tech and Afro and all. Times have evolved, right? Times have changed. So the evolution of time has brought a lot of changes in everything. Like before then, music was very difficult to get, but today music is on everybody's phone. Before, your DJ used to play and the crowd used to understand, oh, this is a track. And today is the other way around. Can you play this?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, times have changed. That's because the power of knowledge. Before, the knowledge was only with the person who used to play and he used to accumulate that. But now this whole thing is with everybody, almost everybody who likes that kind of lifestyle, right? So times have changed, and then yeah, from DJing perspective, how did I become a restaurateur, and how I got into entrepreneurship and then restaurateur. So when I used to DJ, and I found this whole market gap where lot of spaces were kind of suffering from having DJs, getting them on time. If they are absent, they don't know how to refill them at that, because say for example, a Saturday night a DJ doesn't turn up, and what happens then? Who does the manager call, or the owner calls, or something like that? So I saw a lot of gap in this. So I created this product where we came up with Entertainment Line. One of the only sole founders I am. There I created this whole thing where I used to give DJs to outlets, I used to program outlets, I used to give them artists, and I used to manage them. So I used to charge a fee and said, I will pay them, you pay me. I'll take care of everything, which obviously comes with a lot of things. So I had to keep my thing where, okay, a DJ doesn't turn up, I need to keep a backup for another guy. You know, if this doesn't happen, that needs to be backed up. So like plan A, plan B, plan C, right? Hmm. So these were the things where I came in the around 2009-10, right? I mean, I bought a kind of a wave entertainment. So today I have a legacy of that, where this guy came, he took under 80, 90 outlets under his wing, and it was his contracts everywhere. So people used to not call the club, they used to call Entertainment Night. Sir, I want to join you. I want to join your company. So it was nice, and I had a good team who also worked with me and all that. Eventually, I branched out. I came out with a music academy, right? I came out with a music academy where, um, so basically what happened is, there were outlets now in demand. They were lesser DJs. I think they were DJs, but who were not skillful. That is when I met Sean and Clement. They were opening this music school on in the Indranagar. Then I met Clement. They said, why don't we do something? I have spaces. You have DJs. Why don't we collaborate and we figure out the whole system? I said, we can have this whole thing. To be honest, it really went off very well. That whole era of having a music academy, having DJs, having contracts everywhere. So it was like, join the space and you also get employed. You know, so we created a lot of employment. We created spaces where people used to kind of, families used to live out of us, right? I mean, it used to be like that. Afterwards, we created such things. So I'm very proud of that today. I mean, I created that product which till today nobody's been able to figure that out. Um, that is one era which I crossed, and then the industry also went down to a lot of dire straits. I mean, the graph just started coming down. Payments were bad. Number of outlets started becoming more, and people had a lot of challenges. So then we had a lot of backlogs. So then gradually, I started taking little backseat, and then COVID happened. So in this whole era, I have been with lot of bars, lot of clubs. Their day-to-day operations, day-to-day entertainment, day-to-day marketing. I've seen empires come, empires shut down, again rebuild. I mean, like this, I've seen a whole era of lot of spaces, which I don't want to name, but lot of spaces who had their dire straits, who had their good times, the reasons why they had a downfall, the reasons why they came back into market. So, it was a learning for me. That curve, I never knew that was something I was learning by default at the back end. I mean, this is not something I wanted to open up my own restaurant or my own bar tomorrow. That was not my intention. But then this was that learning curve where so many things happened that I gained so much knowledge. 10, 15 years of entertainment era, everything, right? We've covered almost the journey of 2 decades. 2 decades is a lot we have seen in this market. And that really said, I mean, come on, I made so many dreams come true. What about mine now? Right? It came to that point. And then I said, why don't I look at coming out in my own bar eventually? I mean, that's kind of everybody's thought process eventually, because when my they say grass is always greener on the other side. So when I was a DJ, I said, why can't I become an owner? Right? When now I'm an owner, and I say, no, I want to do something else now. So it's always the other way around, right? You want to always evolve, 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 evolve. So that's how this whole post-COVID thing kind of changed the whole equation on thought process. And lucky for us, this place happened. This happened apparently because I was at the Skormangala club, the social club, and not the social like how you have Bangalore club, like that. So it was a Korma club. So one of these guys came and said, I'm trying to wind up this place in Banagata Road. Why don't you look for some buyers? Gave it a thought. I spoke to Gopi. I said, why don't we look at the space? I mean, I've seen the space. I've seen a lot of the space I've been, but they've been too dash because of COVID and all that. This was previously a microbrewery.
Got it.
It was called High Tide. And they went through a lot of ups and downs. And then we saw we were sold out. Said, come on, let's do this. And that's how another investor of this place called Chetan. He was also, all three of us were looking spaces. So we did this for about 6 months, 7 months. Because I also wanted to evolve, right? I mean, and then that's how Miko's happened. But lucky for me today, I'm blessed with doing everything. So I'm still DJing. I hardly do clubs anymore. Clubs is not my forte anymore. But yeah, private gigs, weddings, this is where I still do. I continue my journey there as a passion. I still love doing that. And yes, in the last few years I've been a foodie myself. So food is a very integral part of my life. So, and I've ventured into so many bars and clubs. I've sat with chefs, I've sat with the kitchen, I've done it all. Food was where I found loyalty at. So I know today you're going to a particular place for food and the vibe, clearly, nothing else. It can be fancy, it can be less fancy, however it is. But it's all about what is that you come back for, right? I mean, today you go back to a place, you need to have a reason to it, right? It's not just saying, yeah, we'll go back because this place is fancy. Those days are done. I mean, food is the integral part. Like there are cult following, like we used to have, for example, your SLV, Vidyarthi Bhavan. Why is that still a cult? MTR. Why is it still a cult following? People who are NRIs here, who left India, come back, take the first flight down and say, come on, let's go to Vidyarthi Bhavan. Why is that? Because that is nostalgia. Yeah, right word, nostalgia. It's a nostalgia. You want to go back to that and re-experience that. Yeah, right? I mean, like, wow. I mean, is it chained? Not chained. So after a particular point, it becomes a cult following. I mean, so that is the difference between branding and marketing. You can put as much as money and market, but then there's no ROI to it. Branding is what makes people come back today. That is branding, right? So I am a hardcore branding person than a marketing person. I believe in creating brands and then See, for me, it's more of a business and rather than an emotional thing. I like to create brand and move to the next thing. So that's what I want to do in my life. So that's my whole shift of what I'm currently doing, and this is where I am.
So speaking of branding and again creating experiences with Gulp and with Nikos, what was like, your thought process? Because the thing is, Bangalore has a lot of microbreweries and bars. But so when you entered this place, and after speaking to you, I know that I'm sure that when you do something, you won't do what everyone else is doing. You want to do something different.
Yeah.
So with both of these ventures, what did you set out to do differently?
So so let's start with Nikos. When I jumped in here, the early 2023, right? So when we came to this, it was high tide, and the first thing I saw is wow, 100 acres of greenery are opposite to you. It's IAM and three sides, which is beautifully open. There's nothing obstructing your view. Said wow, that is one. Then came saying, what are your places around you? So everywhere there is a market share you call. Like for example, if there is a market which is doing 10 crores of business as an F&B industry, it's called a market share, right? So today, what is that you're around? So they were all these spaces which are very tropical, which were industry cut kind of a space, and they were offering those kind of spaces. So that's when we said, then by then there were other side of the town, there were other kind of experiences and all that, right? So this is why I said, why don't we get something like a Greek space into this whole um, Greek, Mediterranean, European. It was kind of a mixed idea when we came in here, and then we decided let's go ahead with statues and make it white. And so white, the reason is it makes it look big, right? It makes it look nice. It makes it look warm. It makes it look always welcoming. So that was one of the thought processes. So we said, why don't we? So that's how the whole thought process happened. So we have a lot of places written around, and they were all in the same concept of garden, a lot of plants, and mostly Indian food and all that. So then when we stepped out of the box and said, no, let's do something what not many people have done it here or nobody's done it here. So we wanted to be the first, what do you call, Santorini kind of a space down south, right? There was no space here, no place like that here. So that's how this whole thing evolved here. Coming to Gulp, Gulp was kind of so I was a partner investor back in 2022. So it was a schoolmate again. We are known schoolmates. So that's how it all started there. But then I was not, I was behind the whole scene. But then mid 2023 is when I jumped and I said, okay, now let's navigate this place. By then, this place, Mikos, was almost in autopilot mode. Like we had kind of almost figured out most of the things. The teams were in place. We had right people hired and all that. So a lot of things were settled here. And then, so Gulp is a kind of a space where you are located in down south, hardcore orthodox area, very low spends, and there is no IT around. And colleges run to the other side of the city because they don't want to be in their own areas and all that. So it was a kind of a very big challenge what Gulf was facing. So I live down south. I live in Banchali, about 2-3 lanes behind Gulf. So I kind of sat down and thought for myself, like, what kind of really works here? What is that I would do when I get out from here? What is this market gap here? What is that I want to eat? And since I've lived that side of the town, I've been with my friends around, we've gone out, so we know what is the diversity of places we've gone, right? So first is by South, being a Southerner, we love masalas, we love um the local cuisine, right? The Karnataka local nati cuisine, which was first one tick box. It said, oh, this is something we need to keep in mind. Then we came saying, okay, we come to veg, non-veg. He said, oh, the South again, this less non-veg, more of veg. Again, tick box. So like this, I said, let's bring in the local vibe here. Like, do not do like a local bar, but be a little upmarket bar, but local vibes. So today, what I changed or what we bought in Gulf is the vibe, the music, the food changed it all. So food, we went completely the local South Indian style. When I mean South Indian, I say Karnataka cuisine, the nati style. And then from there, the music, I turned it saying, no, let's just stick to Kannada music. What people love this side of the town. I mean, if I want to, it's like this. If I want to listen to David Guetta, I'll go to David Guetta and listen to his concert. What is missing here is this, right? If I want to enjoy, go party, go dance, then I'll go to maybe Koramangala or Indiranagar or any other nightclubs, right? And why would I want to stay back? This is something of my own I want to give myself, right? So that is when this whole concept of having Kannada music, Karnataka food, and all these things happen. So the whole thought process changed from what sales we were to what sales we bought was brilliant. So the last year, the early I took up in June, July. From about post September onwards, our graph started going like this. So we kind of bought the whole thing back in action. The whole marketing, the idea of marketing changed. So I believe in branding, right? That's what I told you. So today, if you go back to Gulf, you will not find tourists there. You will find people who love the brand. They come back for the brand. Whatsoever. Tomorrow, even if I stop the marketing, the same people will come back. So my idea of branding really worked there. So that concept, that whole idea worked. Now it is ready. Now anybody can run that. It's you just have to fuel it and run it. Drive the car. It's like that. So that is ready. So I believe in creating brands, creating certain of what do you call methodologies, and then moving to the next one. That's how I would like to create concepts. So that's the whole thought process between Miko's. So Miko's was a world cuisine. Um, we had a lot of. So what we did is here, since the place was looking premium, at the same time we didn't price ourselves super premium. We bought in world cuisine. Like we bought a lot of Mediterranean eats. We bought a lot of Pan Asian eats. We bought a lot of other segment of it, and I'm slowly little bit of Indian, North Indian, South Indian, all of that. Everything is we kind of mixed it together and said, so you come here as a family, you get to choose what you want. So I don't let you go disappointed.
Correct.
That's the whole idea of Mipos. And Gulf was very clear. You come here as a family, you know what you're eating. You're coming there only for that. So it became a specialty, and here it became a world cuisine. So that's how we kind of mediated between the both.
So it's different brands for a different target audience.
Absolutely. Geographically, we were both differently located, so we planned it differently.
That's amazing. So, and again, speaking of your whole like you mentioned about branding, a lot of people in the F&B space, like a lot of restaurants and F&B outlets are chef driven. And like after speaking to a lot of F&B operators, what I've realized is the problem is at the end of the day, you're running a business. Things need to be analytical. And that's the way that you've gone, in the sense that you found like a clear market lead in a place that, there is a big demand and you got in the supply. So is that a reason you think that you've had this kind of immense success with both your brands? And it's not even been 3 years, right? I think just in the beginning of 2026.
Yeah. So, to rephrase this whole thing, your question is whether it is a chef-driven market?
No, not the chef driven market. What I was saying is, I was just comparing it with like a chef brand example. Like, a chef is passionate about pizzas. They might just go and make pizzas. But with your approach, is like a entrepreneurial business approach that with Gulp, you found the need for, Karnataka cuisine, a Karnataka vibe, Karnataka music. With Miko's here, you found the need for like, a Mediterranean Greek style of thing. So you found like a clear demand, a clear need, and you brought in the supply.
Yeah. So, so yeah, that's the whole thought process, right? I mean, today, since I said I come from a hardcore business family, that's what came in play finally,
Yeah.
which I never realized that will help me out. But then, yeah, see, eventually what happens today, when you, so there are today's era, right? There is this bottom of the pyramid, there is this top of the pyramid. There is this super fancy spaces, there is mediocre spaces, and there are budgeted spaces. So today, if you look at it, the kind of mid part, the mediocre space is kind of disappearing. People want intimate spaces. People don't want giant closed spaces anymore, right? It's good for a get together when you're going with like a team thing, where that's when you go to a hotel and all that. But at the same time, when you look at, so now you have cocktail bars in trend, right? Why do you have cocktail bars in trend? I mean, you have a lot of people coming with. So I heard some 6, 7 cocktail bars are coming in play. Why do you have cocktail bars in trend? So that's again driven by who? It's a face, right? It's a person who drove it. It's a person driving that whole thing, and they're creating products. That is the future, right? You're creating a product. When I say late night joints, you want to eat, first thing comes into your mind is ghee rice and butter chicken, right? Example. Why is that? Or kebabs, right? Chili kebabs or kebabs. Why would you say that, right? I mean, that's the first thing. So this is a product. Now the same thing is available in other 3, 4 restaurants, which is also late night. But you want to go to that place because you enjoy that food and you like that product. That is the thing. Today you create a product and you come back with building that product. Yeah, around it, you can build multiple things. But what stands out is that. Like, tell me other 10 items in another that place. No, you wouldn't say, oh, okay, maybe this, maybe that. But what stands out is the 2, 3 products which you swear by it, right? So that is the thing. And then you have this the budgeted market where people go clearly understand the service is pathetic, the food is decent, the drinks are cheap, and I get to fill my stomach and clear my pockets as per my budget. So it's very clear. And then you have this celebration spaces, that is this in between part where you go once in a while to celebrate and then you never you go back. So this is experiential, right? So today, when you look at a market, it's more of a market gap and what product you want to come up with. See, today there can be 100 bars. In the 100 bars, which of them are successfully doing? Which of them are running? The 100 restaurants, which of them are successful? The 100 darshanis, which of them are doing well? It's all about the product today, right? I mean, to an example, when you had your cult following spaces, to your new age 2 crore, 3 crore darshanis, they're doing multiply different, but look at the whole way of doing numbers. Where is 2, 3 crores of business? Where is the cult following who is doing maybe 1 crore of business or 50, 60 lakhs of business? Like the exponentially, they have evolved, right? They've started making big brands, giant brands, and they're going spaces. But the cult following remained as cult following, and they remained there. But this is a model of business today. What is taken over? Like then it is like this. My father and my early grandfather wanted to stick to one particular job, work there for 10 years. Today is the other way around. Today I want to work where it values my time, right? It's like that. And then that's what the market has changed, right? Everything is changed side by side, year by year, era by era. So today's market needs experiences, not just products. It needs a good product with great experience. That's what I'd put in.
So you've mentioned experiences. Do you think, this like ethos and this whole like mindset that like, not, okay, I won't say mindset, this knowledge that you've gained about creating good experiences all goes back to your time as a DJ?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, today, if you look at it, they call me the vibe creator, right? I am a vibe creator. As a DJ, I create vibe. That is my job. That's my profession. That's what I'm known for, right? So today, be it Gulp or be it Display, it's all about the vibe, minor plus the everything else, right? I mean, it's the vibe you create. Example, even position of where the artist should be, position of how the speaker should be placed, position of where it should be put. Everything. It's a detail. Like there are so many places don't even have audio in their places, like music audio in their in their places. They don't even know. They in front of us, they'll put off a DJ. They put off a bar. I mean, they put off a band. The experience talks about it, right? I mean, eventually you've seen, and you see, and then you realize, like tomorrow, as a DJ, you can ask me, why didn't you have DJ here?
Yeah.
Everybody had this question in their head saying, why don't you have a DJ? Are you DJing in your place? That was the question. She said, no, I'm not DJing. I said, that's why not? So I said, no, that is not the thought process. I want to build a brand. I said, no, I want to have a band, a live band which gives a live, warm effect in the space. I said, I want to create a vibe, not a dance, not a nightclub, right? So the whole business pattern or the behavioral pattern changes once you have a DJ place. Obviously, right? Then it becomes a place to go let loose, be happy, and all that, right? I mean, so you have to create a separate product for that, and then that's another, like Hard Rock Cafe. I did the programming. The early social impresario, I helped in the programming. So we did a lot of things together. So those eras, what happened? We understood the market. We knew what was to be placed to get the right kind of a vibe. So that's why they call me the vibe creator. So I had the right people in right places. When to get the right DJ, when to get this band, when to get that. You should know to do that. It's not just blindly with place worked in one place, so it'll work in. Not necessary, right? What works in one place doesn't need to have work in another place. Each geographical location, each target audience is different. So each things are different. So only by experience you will get to know that. So I've seen, like I said, I've seen the ups and downs. So we know now where we stand. And today, because of those experiences, we create such vibes. Like when I go to a place, you create the vibe. Obviously, you also need that financial power to create it. Very, very important. You can't just land up and say, oh, he came, we couldn't do anything. Obviously, you need that financial push to create that. So there have been, there have been, to be honest, there have been places where I've taken up and it's also challenging. We had everything, but the market was not ready yet. There have been phases where I took it, market was super ready, but there was no funding. I mean, it's a mix of both. And there have been spaces who were well funded and we did it super right. And we just got it all right. Till today, we just goes autopilot by the books. Yeah, you don't need me anymore. It's like that. You create systems. So for example, you can have the place packed, but empty cash registers. You can have the place buzzing, but you can have the place bleeding without sales. SOPs is very, very important. Getting the right pricing, getting the right kind of crowd, getting the right target audience, getting the right market spend. It's all very important. So everything is a teamwork. It's a process. You start with that and we end with that. You can't just open up a bar and say keep whatever pricing and end up saying, oh shit, I'm not doing anything. How come all the DJs are coming, all the bands are coming, lovely crowd is coming and there's no business. It's all about this whole the idea of creating this whole methods, SOPs, operational procedures, how you do it, right? That's how it works today's era.
So to again, like create like a successful F&B, to create a successful F&B brand, it's not just about money. It's not just about, getting the right people, the right crowd. It's also about SOPs and having the founder himself having some level of experience.
Absolutely. So to make the spaces, you need to have some kind of a knowledge, some kind of a thought process, is what I would say.
So one question I'd really like to ask you is, when you started off, right, 20 years back, you were again you were essentially an amateur. You just starting.
Absolutely.
And now, your experience like a professional. What are some differences in like an amateur and a professional as like a DJ, and also in like a broader sense in like the whole experience space, where whether you're a DJ or you're a restaurant owner, you're again, as you mentioned, you're creating vibes for a person. So what are some differences in things you did back then as compared to now?
See, I would like to bring up my massive nights, my benchmark nights in Bangalore. Wednesday nights, Zero G was famous for my Bollywood Wednesdays. It was midweek parties. So we then you have Studio 54 at Shiro, which I created every Friday, which was a benchmark again. So again, coming back, it's again about creating the vibe. So Zero G was already set; they were already doing. And then when I started playing, people started coming for me. That's because I started doing something right. That means I played the right music. So it was no more an accident I'm doing by default, right? That time I just came back from Morocco. I was in Morocco for about a year. Then I just came back, and then this was all new market. And luckily I was called. I said, come over, do my Wednesdays. I said, okay, let's try this out. And then I started interesting. I mean, I started involving myself because of that interest what I was doing, right? I mean, I wanted to evolve. I wanted to implement a lot of things. That is when I started doing this Wednesday Zero G nights, and then I was also a resident at Shiro back then. Um, he started the Studio 54 nights. So Wednesdays were set. We had right amount of people coming in, but then we had to build it up, right? So I brought in right people to promote us, right set of crowd, right set of. So it was again a journey. So we started making noise, talking to people, calling them by call, come over, come over, come over. So again, it's something I built over a period, right? It's not built over a day. That happened, and then Studio 54 nights. I had 4 people dancing to me when I started that night, but then I had right people join me as a and making those nights even more bigger. And then I packed it to 500-600 people. Right, there was a benchmark. Then by default, closing my eyes, I used to land up like a celebrity, and there were 600 people. So you create spaces with like again the right product, the right lead, the right thought process, the right promotion. By then the promotion had kicked in. The social media had slowly started doing well, so people wanted to be into social media. So it was an era. So it gradually went like this. So you had to be more present. So like I said, that time after a while, DJing was not just DJing; it was more of everything. You had to do everything, mix of everything. So that's when the whole promotional thing started. The whole product kind of evolved. So we bought in that, and yeah, from then to now, yeah, this is the change. Today is all about experiences. You bring in that right product, right experiences.
So we've spoken about from then to now. What is the future like?
Oh, so to be honest, like I said, I'm a vibe creator and I would like to create concepts. I'm more into aesthetically, yeah, it is something it's not my space. I believe in architects, and definitely it is their forte. And my forte is something I would like to do. I would like to create a product which I understand, which I know, which I want to develop and build, and I would like to focus on that. And I would like to create brands, create concepts, and move on to the next one. That's my future.
Any interesting concepts that you have in mind currently, or
Yeah, I'm building something at the moment, something very close to my heart, and maybe we should be out in a few months.
wow,
Yeah.
about? So coming back to like a few basic questions now for someone just starting off in the industry, these are just going to be some very basic questions. The first one being, what makes a good DJ?
Attitude.
Attitude.
No, I think it's about knowledge. First is knowledge and a good idea of reading the crowd and yeah, playing the right music for the right crowd. That's what makes you the good DJ. Yeah.
And then a follow up to that is that with everything that you've done, you've always been innovating. When you started off as a DJ, again, like different tracks. And then when you had the entertainment, this one where you were getting you saw a clear market need. You were giving DJs employment, and you were giving club owners a reliable system for DJs. And then when you ventured into F&B operating too. So you've always been innovating from the beginning. Where do you get your ideas from?
Like I said, I'm from a business background,
Yeah.
so it is natural that these things come, right? You're into this, you see what's happening, and you practically pick them up. There's nothing that anybody taught me.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's like it's in your DNA basically.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's a complete DNA. It's completely practical experiences, practical knowledge which I've gained. That's it.
Now follow up to that is, again, ideas are very easy. Everyone has ideas, but executing it is the hard part.
Absolutely.
So how have you gone about executing it?
So, honestly speaking, like you rightly said, anybody can have an idea today, but executing them is the biggest challenge. Um, for all of it to come together is your hard work and perseverance and patience. You need to be in it, only then it happens. You can't just have an idea and say it will work on its own. You have to be at it, you have to work hard for it, you have to make it happen. There's no other go.
So again, like as you said, just to summarize it, like hard work and like persistent is a fundamental, non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
And another thing is, so like you're a very passionate person. Like have you ever felt like there are times where like maybe things got a little too much, or did you ever feel like giving up sometimes, or was it
Absolutely, absolutely. See, today there are so many challenges like, for example, revenue dips, um, uh, loss of crowd, challenges in the operations, challenges in the kitchen, challenges in the food supply, challenges with the partners, challenges with civic personality, challenges with local personalities. There are so many things. I mean, this is a part and parcel of the life you've chosen, and every time it's a learning. So this is the marriage you get into. You can't back out anymore,
you're in,
right? I mean, so like I said, I am not an emotional person when it comes to business. Um, but you go through that journey to understand what is right and wrong. So it has to be done the right way. It has to be given the right direction, and you have to be in it to kind of get through this whole thing. It is a must. So these challenges are there everywhere. Every industry is got. Every industry has its own challenges. If like today, each one has his own battle to fight. So this is something you have to go through, right? I mean, then we make it through because you're not going to let go, right? Because of one wrong person in the thing, you're not going to just continue doing what you're doing. Just going to go hard with it. That's okay.
it's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah, it's not cost of doing business. It's that what drives you.
Yeah,
Like just because for example, just because some ex guy on the dance floor says your music is bad, you're not going to say no to 100 other people dancing around it.
correct.
Just because one guy is going to come to a restaurant and say your food is bad, you're not going to say no to 400 people who's going to be there. Just because one partner is bad, you're not going to say to bad to other partners. Just because one excise or police is wrong, you are not going to say I'm going to shut down overnight. Right? It's a lot of things, right? I mean, there is everything involved. I mean, you're doing this not because of someone. You're doing it because of yourself. Then comes someone, right? I mean, this is first self love and passion. Maybe. See, today when we have guest feedbacks and all that, it's nothing wrong. It's not a crime. It's good to have feedback. I mean, how you take it matters the most, right? I mean, today when you have a feedback saying, no, sir, the guest didn't like this, I would like to take it positively and say, let me work on this. Even though you can't go with the band, hey, I have done so many things, I have done so many other. No. Each person looks at food or vibe or anything with a different thought process.
You always have to be constructive, not dismissive.
You have to evolve. You have to keep looking at what next. It's an everyday business. You have
Yeah.
to be in this hustle every day, every night. Yeah.
So one of the last questions I'd like to ask you is, a lot of people after getting the kind of success that you had in like multiple verticals as a DJ in the entertainment space and in the F&B space, a lot of people would say that I've made my money, I've made my fame, I'll just take a backseat and retire. But after 2 decades, you're still constantly pushing yourself to do more.
Yeah.
Like what drives you?
Like I said, my passion.
Yeah.
I still love what I do. So in the early days, my dad used to say, don't choose a job, choose the right boss. I used to ask him why. He said, then you love going to work every day. That really is the thought today, right? I mean, today you need to have so what happens? So for example, a person who's about 40, 50 years or 40 years and above, he wants something stable because he's got a family to run. He's got his kids going to school and colleges. And then you have, then they want some comfortable space where it's been well paid. Then what? I mean, this can be got everywhere, right? Then comes the question, what next? Then comes this whole question as then you need culture. At that particular point, there is nothing called as career and ladders because you're already there, right? I mean, from a age of 15, 16, 20 to about 40, 45, you actually kind of defined yourself where you want to be. And from there, you can't become a CEO. I mean, yeah, there's no age bar to become whosoever, but gradually it slows down, is what I mean. But so, having said this, it's also important that You understand this thought process from what you were and what you are today, and that whole passion has been driving me from day one. And today, when I go back to DJing, I stand there with a smile. When I come back to my restaurant, I stand here with a smile because this is what I built for myself. I mean, that's what drives, I feel. I mean, that's clearly what drives me. Entertainment, because you excel in these industries, be it an entrepreneur, be it a restaurateur, be it a DJ, be it a programmer, nightlife planner. In between, I used to install sound also at variable places, and they all turned out phenomenally well. So, this is something you're passionate about. You cannot go wrong. So, I didn't do this for money. I clearly didn't do this for money. I did it because I was passionate to understand and learn more of it. And that's what keeps driving me. Like every day I go back, even till today, I go play my private gigs. There is still something I learn and come back from the previous night. So it's a everyday learning. So I love that. I love waking up early. I love keeping myself upbeat with music, keeping myself upbeat with the restaurant industry, what's happening. I'm actively involved with NRI, National Restaurant Association of India. So there are so many things we are fighting for. So as a restaurateur, even I want to see how actively I can be more beneficial for the industry. I'm working on it. So I love what I do. So that's what keeps me going.
So speaking of the NRAI, can you tell us a bit more about it?
So National Restaurant Association of India is basically a core committee for all restaurateurs who come in together for uh, the same vision, like not only just the problems, but to also development as an industry, right? Restaurants are unified. Restaurant owners are unified, and then as a team, you work together. It is a great thing. So that is NRAI today. So any new restaurant, any restaurant just adds in, joins the space, and they learn the do's and don'ts. They learn the problem. The thing is not a problem. The thing is today is there are new guys, there are old timers. So you learn a lot. You get to network. You learn a lot. You learn their experiences, and you also obviously get to share a lot of things in the industry. And yeah, it's a kind of a, let's say, it's a helping hand, for any restaurant. So Anant was one of the guys who I worked for a couple of times. Club X for a while, Urban Edge for a while, and then Fusion Lounge for a while. And yeah, definitely he's played a very important part at that period. When I came back from Bombay, he hired me as a resident DJ at Nix. He said, "Okay, Ganesh, come join me." So Anand today has definitely made a lot of impact. Now he's the president of NRI. He's working really hard and fast for getting a lot of things done. So yeah, definitely he's also another a good person who's played a role in our lives. Uh, happy to be associated with Anand. That's all I can say. Yeah.
So it's like, again, back when you were a DJ, you used to go, what is the place's name that you used to go to, sir?
You mean where I DJ?
No, no, not DJ. You mentioned that again, you used to go to the places where the senior DJs were.
So
You guys used to collaborate and learn. So even here,
yeah,
it's something like that.
absolutely same thing, around the same lines. Yeah.
It's always about learning,
Yeah,
implementing, and growing.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say that even like, in your 70s or in your old age, you will continue to do something. It's never going to be a,
Absolutely. I feel I will only retire the day I cannot wake up. Till the time I have the energy in my body, I will still do what I love to do. Yeah.
that's very refreshing to hear. You don't hear that a lot these days. I think it's a lot about work-life balance, this, that. Do you believe in that?
I do believe so. I have multiple identities or caps which I wear. Okay, I'm an husband, I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a restaurateur, I'm a DJ, I'm an entrepreneur. I employ so many people. Like, I wear multiple caps and they come with responsibilities. So it's important to have the right equation everywhere, right? I mean, balance is not what I would call, but then go with the right flow. Make sure everything is important, and that's it. I mean, keep a balance everywhere. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Creating like a impact.
I don't say impact. See, I can't create impact in everybody's life, right? I mean, that's something which is impossible, and that's what I intend to do. But at least being the right person at a particular step of anybody's life, yeah, why not?
I disagree with you there because I think you have here a lot of impact. Considering when you started off as a DJ again, you mentioned that there was no like official institution as such, but then you created an institution where people could go and take this up as a gig. Because like at least like I was born in 2003, and like I don't know about back then, but like at least for like my generation, my friends and stuff, like being a DJ is not just like a as like a gig or anything. Like it's a proper career option. I'd say like it's because of front runners like you who created institutions like that with entertainment where you've been able to give solid employment to a person.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, if someone, even if they're a good DJ, where will they go around running to 100 places?
Absolutely. Yeah, that way that's when I said I have created that legacy.
Yeah.
But then now going forward, yeah, I would like to create products which people can experience it and see what I'm seeing. That's it.
That's amazing, sir.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a lovely conversation with you, and I must say that like this has been one of the most interesting and like insightful podcasts that I've ever hosted, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Adnan, for having me on board. I mean, this was fantastic
Yeah.
being part of Backbenchers, and I wish you guys all the well, and hopefully we connect again soon for the next
100%.
episode.
100%, sir. Like to give a special thanks to Mr. Anand because he was the one who introduced us.